Hello, brothers and sisters. I have a story to tell you. There was a man in an old town, and the town was about a mile away from the nearest city. And all the townsfolk would have to walk around the river to the tributary in order to get across, in order to trade with the town across the river. One day a man came, and he would go with the people, the townsfolk, across the tributary. And then he thought, well, if I build a bridge, maybe it'll be easier for us to get to the town. It'll cut it back by about 8 hours of travel. And so he would get up before the sun rose. He would tend to his farm animals and tend to his crops. And then when the sun came up, he'd be working on the bridge. And the townsfolk would come by and ask him how he's doing, and he said, I'm doing great. And they'd go along with their travels in order to trade in the next town. And when the sun would go down, he'd come back, tend to his farm animals again, tend to his crops, go to sleep, and then he'd get up the next day. Every day he'd work on this bridge. He was working on the bridge for about 5 months, and every day the townsfolk would come by and ask him how he's doing, and then they go along to their trade route and go on to the next town for the trade with all their crops. And one day he started getting tired, and he decided, well, maybe I'll go and tend to my animals, and then I'll work on the bridge maybe a little bit later in the day. And so he'd go and he'd tend to his animals, and he'd go back and he'd work on the bridge. And the people would pass by and ask how he's doing, and he said, well, I'm getting a little tired. And they'd go along on their route in order to trade in the next town. Well, the townsfolk decided to come together, and they wanted to do something special for the man building the bridge. They decided they'd make an extravagant feast for him, and when he finished the bridge, and they'd all celebrate and then be able to pass over the bridge and go to the next town almost, within a few minutes. So the farmer would go and he'd work on the bridge, and it was nearing completion, and everyone was really excited for the bridge to be finished. And he went to put in the final nail into the bridge. And as he struck that final nail, he had a massive heart attack and died there on the spot. Everyone was so upset and sad that he died. They commemorated the feast for him on the final day. And they had a very big, extravagant funeral, and they put up a whole bunch of praise and gave him a whole bunch of flowers on his gravestone, and they all wept and were super sad for his death. And then from thereafter, everyone rejoiced in the bridge, and the townsfolk lived happily ever after. All right, amen. God bless and take care of you guys.